Welcome to the Anime Audiophile Podcast. Enjoy. Itachi Shinden, Book of Dark Night. Chapter 4 Part 4. Itachi didn't want to believe what he saw before his eyes. In a windowless room in the basement of the building given to the Umbu, monitors were crowded together, their screens full of sights familiar to Itachi. The Nine Tails Incident. The village officials suspected Uchiha involvement, Kakashi remarked, standing beside him. Itachi listened, staring at the monitors. Not satisfied with just isolating the clan compound on the edge of the village, they started monitoring everything in the compound, 24/7. And that's this room? It is. His Umbu comrades were controlling the images with the countless buttons and levers in front of the monitors. He couldn't see the expressions on their faces because of the masks they wore, but despite this, he felt fairly certain that they were relaxed. That was the extent to which his comrades had let down their guard. And no wonder. For them, this was a monotonous job, simply staring at monitors. They didn't give a thought to how monumental it was for the Uchiha clan. So, we can see everything? We don't need to check on each and every little thing, but basically, I understand. I will under no circumstances inform the clan. There was no way he could tell them. If they found out that every corner of the compound was being monitored 24 hours a day, the rage his father and the others felt would become even more intense. It would simply add ample fuel to the fire for those who were clamoring for a coup. Itachi had been sent to the Umbu by his father as a spy to investigate the true state of affairs in the village. If he were to faithfully fulfill that role, he should report this fact to the clan immediately. The moment he abandoned the idea of telling them, he abandoned the idea that he was a clan spy. From now on, you're going to be monitoring here all day. You're telling me to watch my clan comrades? Abruptly, the man in the monkey mask, who had been sitting in front of the monitors, listening quietly to the exchange between Kakashi and Itachi, stood up. Whether they're your clan comrades or not, a mission is a mission. Your clan drew in 9 tails. So they're being monitored. Accept reality, newbie. Kakashi spoke the name of the man in the mask reprovingly. Their colleague next to Ko whirled around in his chair and turned his mask toward Kakashi. It was the round face of a cat. His little sister was killed by the 9 tails. So he doesn't have the best impression of the Uchiha clan. Don't involve your personal feelings in a mission, Kakashi told them. I understand. I'm sorry. Ko came closer, head hanging. He bowed neatly and passed by Kakashi. All right, you're up, newbie, he said, unhappily. The round face of the cat trailed after him. Oh, you're here, good, Kakashi said, looking at the door the 2 men had disappeared through. Standing in front of it was the ninja who had been with Danzo, Shuguru. It had already been just over 4 hours since Kakashi left. Shuguru had not said a single word. Itachi had never been particularly good at small talk anyway, so he didn't find the silence painful. The time simply passed, with the two of them staring intently at the monitors. It was pure chance that he saw it. Although it was his mission, Itachi's blood was not cold enough to allow him to coolly watch over the lives of his brethren. He frequently switched the monitor image before his eyes, trying as much as possible not to stay in one place. By viewing a series of moments like this, he managed to maintain his presence of mind somehow. He had trained to memorize a scene with a single glance, so Itachi was confident that he was amply executing his professional duties. At one of these momentary fragments, he felt the faintest sense that something was off, and he stopped his hand. The composition he expected, from the gates of Nakano Shrine. The stone paving of the path stretched straight out from the stone gates to the main building of the shrine. But the space precisely in the middle, between the gates and the main building, looked slightly twisted to Itachi's eyes. Just for a fraction of a second. The scene in the monitor had already regained its stillness. It had been a faint disturbance that Shuguru most likely hadn't noticed. If anyone else had seen it, they would no doubt have thought it was simply the wind shaking the camera. But Itachi had seen that disturbance before. The scene near the center of the stone paving had been disturbed by a vortex centered on one point. Almost like the surrounding space was being sucked into that point. The man in the mask. The phenomenon shown on the monitor was exactly the same as the jutsu the man in the mask had used when he escaped after he attacked Itachi and his team during the mission to guard the daimyo of the Land of Fire. Why would that man, Itachi muttered carelessly, before he noticed Shuguru's presence and regretted it. But Shuguru's attention was focused on the monitor before him. Annoyed by his own inexperience, Itachi dove once more into the sea of his thoughts. When Tenma died, Itachi had clearly seen the right eye of the man, shining behind the mask. A black dot floated in the center of a crimson eye, 3 comma-shaped magatamas in the concentric circles. He was certain that the man's right eye had been a Sharingan, which meant that he was a member of the Uchiha clan. Over 3 years had passed since that incident. From time to time, the scene of his teammate's death would come back to life in his mind. Tenma lost his life, an almost unsightly terror plastered on his face, looking as though he had no idea what was actually happening. Itachi had been astonished at the overwhelming difference in power that existed between himself and the man in the mask. He had despaired at his own powerlessness, and ended up activating his own Sharingan. All of which meant that the man in the mask was the man who had awakened Itachi as a true Uchiha ninja. The murder of his colleague, and yet, a person he was indebted to. He felt a strange connection with the man in the mask. Over the last 3 years, Itachi had wondered any number of times about the man's true identity. From what he could infer, Itachi had thought the man was perhaps a member of the Uchiha clan, but that changed to a certainty now. The blur in the video was because of the man in the mask. The man had appeared at Nakano Shrine. The day Tenma died, a Sharingan had glittered beneath the attacker's mask. All of this clearly pointed to him being a member of the Uchiha clan. So then, who exactly in the clan was it? In the ensuing 3 years, Itachi had contact with all the men of the clan living in the village. There was no one with ninjutsu to control space the way the man did. There was also no one with that same voice or aura. And more than anything else, Itachi had a hunch that the man was not someone from the village. So then, who? The Uchiha clan had lived in the village of Konoha since its founding. And he hadn't heard of anyone outside the Uchiha clan having the Sharingan. Although there were exceptions like Hatake Kakashi, they were still within Konoha. If precious Kekii Jinkai like the Sharingan or the Byakugan had been leaked outside the village, it would have been a serious affair for the entire nation. There was no way the village records wouldn't have mentioned it. And as of the present date, there was nothing about the Sharingan being leaked to another village. When he thought about it like this, the possibilities naturally narrowed. The first was that a member of the Uchiha clan thought to have died in the Great War had survived, and become the man in the mask. It was a general rule that if a member of the Uchiha clan died in battle, their Sharingan would be brought home by another ninja. So, the man couldn't have stolen it from a corpse. In which case, it made sense to assume that someone thought to have died was alive, and coming to the compound with his Sharingan still in his possession. The second possibility was that the man in the mask was someone who had broken away from the Uchiha clan. This was less likely than the first option. Because since the founding of Konoha, only one person had ever broken away from the clan and left the village. Uchiha Madara, the man who founded Konoha together with Hashirama of the Senju clan. He had left the village, and was said to have died in battle with Hashirama in a place called the Valley of the End. It wasn't possible for someone who had died to be alive. At this point, Itachi should have abandoned this second option. But for some reason, he couldn't completely put it aside. He had felt the man's overwhelming chakra, his powerful presence, for himself, and it had been stronger than that of any ninja Itachi had encountered up to that point. If a ninja like that had died in battle, then it should have gone down in history. However, nowhere in the records of the great battles of the past was the death of such a capable Uchiha ninja verified. In which case, Itachi could consider the idea that Madara was alive. Itachi. A voice came at him from far away. Itachi! Shuguru called Itachi back to reality. It's about time to switch shifts. Itachi answered vaguely. Even as he had indulged in his thoughts, his fingertip had kept pressing the button. Although he was not watching it at all, the monitor he had his eyes trained unchanged from one scene to another in quick succession. Are you all right? What do you mean? He asked in response. No. It's nothing. Shuguru didn't say anything more. About 2 months had passed since Itachi joined the Embu, but his monotonous days continued unchanged. His main duties were guarding the Hokage's office and practicing with his comrades. He still hadn't been given any missions that would expose his life to danger. You couldn't exactly say the village was at peace if we were out on assassinations and dangerous missions all the time. The fact that we've got nothing to do is proof of peace, Kakashi had said, and laughed easily. The village is at peace. And yet, Itachi wondered. If the village was supposed to be at peace, then why was his heart in such turmoil? Why did he feel like things were so urgent? Because of his clan. In the shadow of the tranquility of the village, the Uchiha brethren were seeking chaos. This was the main cause of the disquiet in Itachi's heart. Whatever happened, he had to at least prevent a coup. But he couldn't come up with a concrete plan to do that. He had said he would move with Shisui, but the two of them could stand side by side with their arms spread out, and they still wouldn't be able to completely hold back the clan's eagerness for destruction. The fact that he couldn't find a way to break this deadlock had Itachi panicked. Wah, ah, ah, ah. An ear-splittingly loud voice pierced his ears on his way home from work. Unconsciously, his feet stopped, and he noted the little park ahead of him. It was already late in the day, evening. The sun had long ago slid off to the west, and a gloom was descending on the area. A boy, likely the one who laughed, was standing on a swing, staring out at 3 human shadows running off. Probably his friends. I'm telling you, you guys don't have a chance against the great Uzumaki Naruto here, the boy on the swing shouted. The shadows didn't turn back toward him, but left the area, chatting to each other about something, seemingly friendly with each other. Staring after the 3, the boy who had named himself as Naruto sat down sadly on the swing. His earlier words had clearly been a show of courage. Itachi had understood this, once the boy named himself. There was no one in the village who did not know Uzumaki Naruto. The boy before him had been involved in the 9 Tails incident that had terrified the people of the village. The child with the 9 tails inside him. When he walked along the road, everyone lowered their voices. There was only one person who did not know that the 9 tails lived within his body. That was Naruto himself. He was unaware of the calamity in the village. It was sealed up in his body, and he lived with people in fear of him. Naruto couldn't understand why people persecuted him. And both of his parents were already gone from this world. He had no one to shower him with unconditional love. Itachi turned his feet toward the park. He advanced quietly toward the swing with the boy, moving weakly back and forth. He sat down beside Naruto, whose face was turned to the ground. Whoa! Noticing Itachi's sudden appearance, Naruto nearly fell off his swing in surprise. He flapped his arms and legs more than absolutely necessary, and managed to stop the swing before turning suspicious eyes on Itachi. Don't go scaring me like that. Sorry. So, who are you? Naruto stared at him with wide eyes. Pumping the swing, Itachi turned his gaze forward. It doesn't matter who I am, does it? My mom says I'm not supposed to talk to strangers. She's gone, though, Itachi said. A bashful smile spread across Naruto's face as he threw his right hand up to the back of his head. So, you know that? Uzumaki Naruto is a famed prankster. Am I that famous? In a certain sense. Heh. Naruto laughed happily, unable to understand Itachi's sarcasm. Your friends ran off. If they don't get my pranks, then they're not my pals. Naruto's voice was excessively bright, like he was trying desperately to act cheerful so that his loneliness wouldn't be seen. Everyone knew Naruto's true self. For the village, the Nine Tails incident had left a scar deeper than any other. Suspected of having controlled the Nine Tails, the Uchiha clan was also still trapped under that cloud. Itachi himself had been slandered more times than he could remember because of it. There was probably not a single person in the village willing to have any meaningful contact with the boy who housed the source of that trauma in his body. In other words, Naruto was the greatest victim of the Nine Tails incident. Itachi didn't know how the Nine Tails came to be sealed in the boy's body. But he thought that anyone who would seal the embodiment of disaster in a baby was not in their right mind. Perhaps they hadn't considered how the child would be persecuted. The details of the Nine Tails incident were a closely guarded secret in the village. The truth was hidden in darkness, and only Naruto was left. Naruto was one part of the darkness of the village. The village had been built sacrificing people like Naruto. The village officials had sealed the disaster in Naruto and directed the dissatisfaction of the people somewhere else with their persecution of the Uchiha clan in order to skillfully keep the village running, deliberately producing a darkness to hide their own darkness. And now Itachi, too, was one part of the darkness in the village. Because the Umbu itself was the true darkness of the village. Bro. Naruto widened his eyes next to him. You just got real quiet all of a sudden. You alright? I'm fine. Alright, good. Naruto looked up at him, with worry in his eyes. It's probably time for you to be getting home. I can go home, but it's not like there's anyone there. Naruto's mouth twisting downward, he put on a show of being tough. Then I'll go home. What? Naruto cried in exaggerated surprise when Itachi stood up. Keep fighting, Itachi said, words he thought offered no real peace of mind. But Naruto seemed happy and chuckled to himself as he rubbed his nose with a finger. And then he leapt forcefully off the swing, stood tall, and pointed his index finger at Itachi. My name's Uzumaki Naruto. I'm gonna be Hokage someday. You are? Hokage, huh? A flame blazed up in Itachi's heart. Even as he carried the burden of the village's darkness, this boy was not giving up on his own destiny. Not resenting the village, not hating the people, he believed in his own dream, honestly and wholeheartedly. I hope you are. I'm totally going to be Hokage. Remember me till then, bro. Smiling in response, Itachi turned his back to Naruto and started walking. The heavens above glittered with stars. Danzo called him in. He sat in his chair with a sour look on his face. Next to the master of the foundation was Shuguru, supposedly a member of Team Ro. How's the Umbu? I don't know yet. An honest answer. You'll no doubt have any number of experiences from now on that you could only have in the Umbu. Until then, polish your skills, Danzo said, almost as if he were Itachi's boss. But Itachi was in the Umbu, which was under the direct control of the Hokage, with no connection with the foundation. In terms of work, Danzo and Itachi basically had nothing to do with one another. I called you here today for a reason, Itachi nodded silently. I've heard that the Uchiha clan compound has been particularly strict with outsiders lately. It was true that in the last few months, the compound had taken on an air of exclusivity. It seemed that his father giving voice to the word coup had given the compound itself a will. You are also going to the regular meetings? Danzo asked, point blank. The Uchiha clan was monitored 24 hours a day by the Umbu. It was only natural that Danzo would be aware of the meetings. Yes, Itachi answered honestly, preparing himself for the worst, knowing that there was no point in hiding anything. Danzo nodded deeply, seemingly satisfied. I'll be frank. I want you to report the details of those meetings to me. His voice slammed into Itachi, containing indescribable pressure. If things continue as they are, the Uchiha clan will fall. Your power is needed to stop that from happening. Are you telling me to betray my clan? You're not betraying them. You're saving them. Danzo rested his elbows on his desk and set his chin in intertwined hands. The hollow of his left eye, a deep, dark cavern, peered out at Itachi. Betrayal is an act that brings about a disadvantage to the betrayed. The act of reporting the details of the meetings to me is to prevent the explosion of your clan, and as such, it is advantageous to them. Thus, it cannot be said to be betrayal. A neat bit of rhetoric. Danzo likely intended to complicate his thinking and blind him, but Itachi was not fooled. No matter what the result was for his clan, telling Danzo what happened at the meetings was nothing other than betrayal. Danzo had misread him. Itachi was not fixated on the word betrayal. I understand. Given that you hate fighting more than anyone, I thought you might say that, the master of the foundation said, in a voice that did not reveal his emotions. Itachi hated it, but it was just as Danzo said. He still hadn't been able to come up with a concrete plan to stop the coup d'etat. Danzo's request, coming at such a time, had an irresistible appeal. They had been able to gain the cooperation of the third Hokage, thanks to Shisui. And Itachi's decision here might turn into an opportunity to use Danzo's power. He would prevent his clan's implosion by connecting it with the center of the village. I don't want to do anything to rob your clan of dignity. I leave the selection of information you bring to me to you. Thank you. I'm counting on you, Itachi. The fate of your clan rests on your decisions. Danzo's voice weighed heavily on Itachi. But Itachi's resolve was not so weak that it could not withstand that weight. He took a deep breath, deep enough to reach the pit of his stomach, as if realizing the heavy responsibility he had been saddled with. It smells like blood somehow. End of Chapter 4. Thank you for listening. Remember to like and subscribe for lots more.